When it comes to cocktails, they don't get much more iconic than this. Let's make an old-fashioned. There's a reason this drink's called the old-fashioned. It's arguably the drink that spawned the word cocktail. So before cocktail became a term to refer to kind of mixed drinks in general, there was the old-fashioned. But back then it was called the cocktail. It was a mix of spirit, sugar, and bitters. Sometimes you get some ice, sometimes you get an orange peel. But it really was the most simple, most basic form of a cocktail. It wasn't until later on, when the term cocktail came to refer to a broader range of mixed drinks, that people started calling it the old-fashioned. And what this meant is you wanted the old school way of making a cocktail. You wanted that traditional spirit, bitters, sugar form. Now this video isn't really about the history. We're going to teach you how to make the best modern interpretation of an old-fashioned. So buckle up, grab some bourbon, and let's make a cocktail. So we're going to make the most recognized version of this drink. And that means we're using bourbon. Now, you can use other spirits. Cognac works great, rum's fantastic, other types of whiskey like Scotch or Irish can make a really good old-fashioned. You can even use gin or tequila or mezcal, but bourbon is the classic. Bourbon is the one that if you order an old-fashioned at a bar, it's probably what you're going to get. So without further ado, let's start making our drink. Now, this nicely brings me on to my first point, and that is use a good bourbon. This doesn't mean use the most expensive, high-end bourbon you can get your hands on, but it does mean use one that you enjoy drinking. This is a simple cocktail, we're not using a lot of ingredients, so if you use a bad whiskey, you're going to end up with a bad drink. Anyone who tries to tell you that good spirits, good whiskey, good bourbon are not for mixing, don't listen to them. Use spirits you enjoy. At the end of the day, it's your drink. If you want to use a top shelf whiskey, you can use a top shelf whiskey. If you want to use something a little bit more affordable, you can. Today, I'm using Wild Turkey 101. I like this, it's a fantastic whiskey, and it's got a bit of a higher ABV, so it stands up nicely against that sugar and those bitters and the dilution, and it still punches through. We're going to start off with 60 ml of our whiskey. Now, we're building this in a mixing glass. The reason for that is we're going to stir it in here first, then pour it over ice into the glass we drink from. This lets us control our dilution much more accurately. It lets us stir it till we know that it's ready before we put it in our glass to drink. So after our whiskey, we need our sugar. Now, some people will tell you to use granulated sugar, some people will tell you to use a sugar cube and douse it in bitters and dissolve it into the drink. All of this is a bad idea. Sugar doesn't really like to dissolve in alcohol, so what you're going to end up with is a drink at the beginning that's not sweet enough. As it does start to dissolve, you're going to end up with kind of granulated, gritty bits of sugar at the bottom of your drink, and it's never going to be particularly well balanced. Just skip the sugar and use a syrup. You can use just a plain white sugar syrup. This is 2 parts of caster sugar, 1 part of water, or you can do what I do. I like to use a Demerara sugar. So it's got a little bit more richness to it, it's a little bit heavier, you can see it's quite thick, and it adds a load of depth and it really complements the whiskey nicely. How much you use is up to you. It's all down to your personal preference. I've got these handy little measuring spoons. I'm going to use 7.5 ml. That's where I like it, but if you want it sweeter, add a bit more. The best place to start is put less in. You can always add more if you decide it's not sweet enough. And lastly, our bitters. So Angostura is the classic. If you're making an old-fashioned, you want it to be traditional, if this is your first old-fashioned, absolutely use Angostura bitters. They're fantastic, they work well, they're time-tested and reliable. But you can always add other flavours. Orange bitters are a fantastic addition to an old-fashioned. Chocolate bitters pair really nicely. And then there's infinite other flavours out there that you can experiment with depending on your spirit and depending on your taste. Now, what I do is I like to mix a few together. So in this bottle, I have a mix of 3 parts of Angostura, 2 parts of orange bitters, 1 part of chocolate bitters. It's a lovely little combination, it works really well, and it's my favourite blend for old-fashions. We're going to add 3 good dashes, 4 good dashes of that. This is kind of up to your taste. I like to go a little bit heavy-handed with my bitters. I like to have a good kind of influence from it. But you can put a bit less if you want the whiskey to be the star of the show. And that's it. This drink is as simple as that. It's 3 ingredients, and then we're going to stir it with some ice. So fill your mixing glass up with ice, and we're going to give it a stir. Now, there's no hard and fast rules for how long you should stir an old-fashioned. You really just kind of do it till it's ready. So how do we know it's ready? We keep tasting it. Whenever you're stirring a drink like this, it's important that you taste it as you go so you'll know when it's bang on and it's ready to serve. Grab yourself a straw, dip it in, spill it everywhere, so it still needs a bit more dilution. Now, what I like to do in my old-fashions is have it slightly undiluted. This means the first sip that you take, it's really bracing, it's biting, it's strong, and then as it melts over that ice, it mellows out a little bit, but you don't end up with that drink at the end that's watery and flat and lost all its flavour. I think this is about perfect. So we're going to grab our glass and then we're going to put ice in this. You can use normal cubed ice, you can use a big cube. What I like to use is a big clear cube like this. It dilutes a little bit slower, it helps keep the drink cold, but most importantly, and something you really shouldn't forget when you're making cocktails, is this looks great. Aesthetics are so important for drinks, because before you ever taste the drink, you're going to see it, you're going to look at it, and you're going to make judgments based on it. So don't skimp on making sure your drink looks pretty before you even taste it. Now we'll strain our old fashioned over the top. And we're going to finish this off with an orange zest. You want to take a nice big piece of orange zest like this. You can trim the edges off if you want, but for me, in an old fashioned, I like it to look a little bit rustic. Express those oils over the top. That's going to give you a really nice big hit of orange zest as you go to take a sip. It's going to sit on your lips. It really completes this drink. I wouldn't skip this step. Tuck it in, and that's your old fashioned. Let's have a taste. It really is a great drink. It's so simple, the ingredients don't sound like a lot, but it's full of depth and complexity. The whiskey still shines through, the bitters add this nice accent, this little bit of spice, this little bit of depth. The Demerara sugar is great, it's rich, it helps to round everything out, it softens it. For something that is 90% booze, this is so drinkable. The great thing about this drink is it opens up a world of possibilities. Once you've mastered this, once you've got this nailed down, you can swap out the spirit. You can try it with a different whiskey, you can try it with a completely different spirit. You can swap those bitters around, you can work on making your own blend. The sugar doesn't have to stop at Demerara. You can try honey, you can try agave, you can try flavoured syrups. The possibilities for this drink are so endless, and with that simple ratio, that simple recipe, you can do so many exciting things. There really is a reason that this drink has kind of survived this long. That this was the earliest kind of use of the word cocktail, and it's still one of the most popular today. I really recommend you get this one down. You should get the recipe that works for you, find out how you like to serve it, and from there, start experimenting. This is a great drink if you want to get into whiskey more, but you're not quite ready for straight spirits. This is perfect, because you still taste the spirit, you still get all of the complexities from the whiskey, but it's softened. That sugar helps out a lot, the dilution helps, it's a little bit colder. You can sip it over a longer period of time. It's a good way to slowly ease yourself into the world of drinking neat whiskey. It's just a fucking great drink. Thanks for watching, I hope you found this video interesting. Feel free to leave a comment with what drink you'd like me to make next. If you did like this video, leave a like, hit subscribe, and you can always follow me over on Instagram at todays_tipple, where I post new recipes and drinks every day. Cheers.